The first problem, a person wishes to make up as many different millennium parties as he can out of his 20 friends. Comprising the same number of friends. In a given party, you want to invite the same number of friends. How many friends should he invite at a time so that he can have the maximum number of parties possible? Well, the maximum number of the number of parties out of R friends that he can have is the number of ways in which he can accumulate R people out of 20, and the number of ways in which he could accumulate R people out of 20 is 20 CR ways, right? So these many parties could be carried out 20 CR ways, so these many parties, right? These many millennium parties, and he wants this to be the maximum it could be. Realize that when n is even, NCR is maximum. When R is n by 2, I have mentioned this in the past, yes or no? When n is even, this is maximum when R is n by 2. So in this case, R must be 10. So the maximum number of millennium parties would be 20C10 when he invites 10 people at a time. 10 people at a time. Clear? In how many of these parties a particular girl would always be present? Now, don't ask why that girl has to be present all the time. Girlfriend. So he sets her aside there for every single party. So now he's left with only 19 to select from. And he doesn't want to select 10. He wants to select now 9. So 19C 9 ways in which that girl would be present all the time. Clear? And the answer would not change if it was, instead of millennium parties, it was some other parties. one dude of ours comes down the beginning of the class. He says, "You couldn't solve the problem because millennium parties." Each of 3 committees has 1 vacancy which has to be filled from a group of 6 people. These are the 6 people, and the 3 committees having 1 vacancy, V1, V2, V3 in the 3 committees. These are the 3 committees with 1 vacancy each, Find the number of ways of filling these vacancies if a person can serve on at best 1 committee, right? So then, this vacancy V1 can be filled up in 6 ways. But now the person who's serving V1 cannot serve V2. So the number of ways in which V2 could be filled up is 5. The number of ways in which V3 could be filled up is 4. So that makes it 120 ways of selecting members, filling up these vacancies such that the same person does not serve more than 1 committee, right? That's A. B. No restriction on the number of committees on which a person can serve, right? Very clear. So P1 can serve in any one of the 3 committees, P2 can serve in any one of the 3 committees, P3 can, I'm sorry, V1 can be filled up, V1 can be filled up by any one of the 6 people, V2 can be filled up by any one of the 6 people, and V3 can be filled up by any one of the 6 people. So that makes it 216 ways of filling up the 3 vacancies V1, V2, V3 with no restriction at all, right? So this is the unrestricted number of ways. This includes what? It includes those cases in which a person is serving no more than 1 committee. It includes this case therefore. It includes the case where a person could serve 2 committees. It includes the case where a person could serve all 3 committees, right? Now, See, each person can serve on at best at most two committees. That means now we want those cases in which a person is not serving on any more than two committees, right? He could serve on no committee, he could serve on one committee, on two committees, but no more than that. So what we do is, from 216, the total number of ways of filling up these vacancies, I remove those cases in which a person is serving all three committees. Then I get those cases in which a person is serving no more than two committees. Yes or no? From this, I remove cases where a person serves all three committees. Where a person serves all three committees, I remove those cases. Then I get cases where a person is serving no more than two committees. Yes or no? And a person serving all three committees. All three committees is how many? P1 for example. So it could be P1, P1, P1 in all three committees, or it could be P2, P2, P2 second case, or in third case P3, P3, P3. So there are 6 such cases in which a person serves all three committees. How about it? Right? So from 216, I subtract 6, which is the number of cases in which a person serves all three committees. Right? So 6 cases in which a person serves all three committees will give me those in which a person serves no more than two committees. So 210, 210, right? During a draw of lottery tickets bearing numbers 1 to 40, 6 tickets are drawn out and then arranged in the descending order of their number. 6 tickets are drawn out and arranged in the descending order. These are the 6 tickets. In how many ways is it possible to have the 4th ticket bearing 25? We want the 4th ticket to be labeled 25. Now, the numbers are 1 to 40. Right? So this is 25. Then the numbers that could be accommodated here are 1 to 24. Right? T5 and T6 can be filled up by numbers 1 to 24, yes or no? So in order to fill T5 and T6, I need to select 2 out of 24. I need to select 2 out of 24. So that I can do in 24 C2 ways. Yes or no? Right? After having filled up T5 and T6 in 24 C2 ways, I have the responsibility of selecting 3 numbers for T1, T2 and T3. Right? Now, what are the numbers that are eligible for T1, T2, T3? How many numbers? Right, 15 numbers. 15 numbers. Anywhere from 26 to 40. All numbers from 26 to 40 are eligible for these 3 locations. Right? So that means there are 15 numbers available from which I need to select 3 numbers and then I arrange them in descending order. So that's the number of ways in which I could fill out T1, T2 and T3. So given this number 25, the number of ways in which I could fill out these is 15C3. And then after this and, I need to select T5 and T6 in 24C2 ways. So these are the number of cases in which T4 is 25. In which T4 is 25. Are you there with me on this? No? I have taught derangements in the class. Right? I have taught derangements. Derangement of n things. N letters in n envelope. Right? And do you recall the expression for derangements? N factorial into 1 minus 1 by 1 factorial plus 1 by 2 factorial minus up to minus 1 to power n by n factorial. That's the derangement of n things. N things allocated for n spaces but nothing going into its right space. This is the number of ways in which those n things could be deranged. Recall this? 6 persons go to a party. They leave their top coats in the lounge and pick them while returning. In how many ways can they pick up their top coats so that exactly one person picks up his own top? So out of 6 people, select the one who's picking up his own top coat, right? So that you can do in 6 ways. In 6 ways, you can select that one person picking up his own top coat, right? Now, the remaining 5 people don't pick up their respective top codes. So that means the remaining 5 people are deranged. The remaining 5 top codes are deranged. The remaining 5 top codes are deranged. So after having selected that one person who's picking up his own, you derange the remaining 5. Derangement of 5 things. In that expression dn, replace n by 5, you get derangement of 5 things. Yes or no? Right? I hope all of you understand this. So that's part 1 of the problem. Part 2 of the problem, exactly 2 people pick up their own top codes. So first select the 2 people, that happens in 62 ways, and then derangement of 4 things. There are 4 things remaining, so derangement of 4 things. Yeah? In a chess tournament where the participants are to play one game with one another, 2 players fell ill, having played only 3 games each. How many participants were there at the beginning if the total number of games played in the tournament is 84? Total number of games played in the tournament is 84. So we have, like, let's say there were n players. And 2 of these players, A and B, fell ill. 2 of these players, A and B, fell ill, right? Now, A had played, so the game got abandoned at that point of time. A had played 3 games, B had played 3 games until then. And we do not know whether they had played each other in this 3, right? So if they had not played each other, then the total number of games A and B played was 6. If they played each other, then the number of games would have been 5. Number of games that they would have played in all, putting together, would have been 5, right? So there are 2 distinct possibilities, and we do not know which one is. Problem does not stipulate that, right? So then, the total number of games played in the tournament. Exclude these 2. How many remain? N minus 2. And these n minus 2 playing with each other would have been n minus 2 C2 games, n minus 2 C2 games, plus the number of games A and B played. Number of games A and B played could have been 6 or could have been 5, depending on whether they played each other or they did not play each other. If they did not play each other, then the number of games A and B played in all, would have been 6, and this would then have been 84. Yes or no? Or the second possibility, if A and B had played with each other one game, then the number of games that they played in all would have been 5, right? So plus 5 would have been 84. These are 2 possibilities, right? So solve this. By the way, PC2 is P into P minus 1 by 2 factorial. Yes or no? PC2 is P into P minus 1 by 2 factorial. So this is PC2. So that's going to be P into P minus 1 by 2 factorial. And that's equal to 82 as far as this case is concerned. N minus 3 by 2. That would have been 79. This is the second possibility. So can you just solve these 2 equations quadratic and tell me what you get out of this and what you get out of this? Huh? Oh, sorry, 78. I'm sorry, 78. I'm so sorry, 78. Can you just tell me the values of n? This does not give me an integer value. This case is not possible because it's not giving me an integer value. What do you get from here? 15 and minus 10 when you solve this quadratic, 15 and minus 10. When you solve this quadratic, you don't get n to be an integer. This does not give you an integer when you solve this quadratic. So this case is ruled out. This case is, that means they're not played against each other, right? So which means this must be the case. Minus 10 does not exist. Number of games played, so the number of games that they played, total number of games played in the tournament before it got abandoned was 15. In a unique hockey series between India and Pakistan, they play on till a team wins 5 matches. In how many ways could the series be won if no match ends in a draw? If no match ends in a draw. So Indo-Pak matches M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, and realize that the maximum number of matches that could have been played is 9, isn't it? The maximum number of matches that could have been played is 9. Right? Let's look at the number of ways in which India could have won, and then we'll double that. Because that same number of cases Pakistan could have won, but India for sure would have lost hockey, and there's no match fixing also involved there. Otherwise, India would have won. Now, I'm a patriot. Otherwise, it's not for hockey. I'm quite patriotic. One thing. So let's examine India wins. There are these 9 matches, and the series could have got terminated anywhere, right? It could have been a 5-0 win, in which case the series gets terminated at the 5th match. It could have been a 5, and by the way, the last match obviously has to be won by India. The last match has to be won by India, isn't it? The series could have been 5-1, in which case it gets terminated here, M6. The series could have been won at M7, it could have got terminated, S5-2, and so on and so forth. Yes or no? Depending on the match where it got terminated, the score of the series could have been determined. I mean, if you know that it got terminated at the 5th match, then the series must have ended at 5-0 note, 5-1 note, and so on and so forth. If it got terminated at M9, it must have been a 5-4 kind of a series, right? Now, out of these 9 matches, you select 5 matches, any 5 matches, you select any 5 matches. For example, number of ways in which you could have selected the 5 matches is 9C5, isn't it? You could have selected 9C5. And do you realize that every time you select 5 matches out of these 9, for example, you could have selected M1 to M5. That's one mode of selecting 5 matches out of 9. That means this will determine, each time you select 5 matches, that will tell you what the score of the series must have been, right? So the number of ways India could have won is just about the number of ways in which you could have selected the 5 matches out of these 9. Any 5 matches out of the 9, that would have told you the story of what the series must have been like. So India must have won in 9C5 ways, right? And Pakistan could have also won in 9C5 ways. So the total number of ways India or Pakistan win is 9C5 into, right? Because see, each mode of selection of 5 matches will include one last match which India would have won. right? So that would tell you exactly what the score must have been for that, right? So you don't have to separately deal with the number of ways the match could have been won in 5-0 ways, 1-5-0 or 5-1 or 5-2 or 5-3. That separately you don't have to, because selecting 5 matches is like selecting one last match, which would tell you what the outcome of the series must have been, whether it was a 5-0 outcome or a 5-1 outcome or a 5-2. Right? I hope you are mentally comfortable with what I said. Right? Now, number 8. A forecast is to be made of the results of 5 cricket matches, each of which can be a win, a draw, or a loss for the Indian team. 3 outcomes: a win, a loss, or a draw. 3 possibilities for every match, right? So, and the number of matches are 5. Find the total number of different possible forecasts. Obviously, the number of ways in which M1 could be predicted is 3. I mean, right? You could either predict a win, a loss, or a draw. 3 ways of predicting M1, 3 ways of predicting M2, 3 ways of predicting M3, and 3 ways of predicting M5. So the total number of ways of predicting M1, M2, M3, M4, M5 is 3 to the power 5. 243. Huh? Answer galat hai? Okay. 243 is what it must be. This must be, if the answer is written as 81, amended, it must be 243. So 243 different forecasts possible. 243 different forecasts possible. Clear? Now, the next part of the problem. Number of forecasts containing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 errors. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 errors. Okay. Number of forecasts with 0 error? 1. Obviously. There is only one forecast with no error. Right? Number of forecasts with 1 error. That means out of these 5 matches, 1 match has been wrongly predicted. Other matches have been appropriately predicted. So appropriate prediction is only 1. But wrong prediction will be actually 2. For every match, there are 2 ways of predicting it wrong, because one of the 3 is a right prediction, the remaining 2 are wrong predictions. Right? So first of all, select that one match that has been predicted wrongly. 5 ways of selecting that one match that has been predicted wrongly. Right? Yes or no? And then for that match, the number of ways in which the error could have been produced is 2 ways. So 5 ways of selecting the match and 2 ways of wrongly predicting it. That's part 1 of the problem. 1 error. This is 1 error. 2 errors. So first select the 2 matches out of the 5 in which there has been an error. 5C2 matches into, and for each of the 2 matches there are 2 ways of wrongly predicting. So 2 ways of one match, 2 ways of the other match, so 2 square ways. Yes or no? So 2 square. 2 errors. Similarly, 3 errors. First select the 3 matches and 2 ways of wrongly predicting each match. So 2 into 2 into 2, that makes it 3 errors. Similarly, now of course, straightforward, you realize the trend. 4 matches in which 4 errors, so select the 4 matches and then 2 to the power 4 ways and so on. Clear? 5 errors would be 2 to the power 5. 5 errors would be 2 to the power 5. All matches selected. Each match predicted wrongly in 2 ways. So 2 into 2 into 2, 5 times. 2 to the power 5. So 5 errors in 2 to the power 5 ways. 5C5 into 2 to the power 5. Clear? In a cricket match, Azhar wants to bat before Jadeja. Anyway, see, there are 11 positions of batting. There are 11 batting positions, right? And Azhar, Jadeja bats somewhere, and Azhar for sure not immediately before Jadeja, but he could bat anywhere before Jadeja, right? And Jadeja wants to bat after Sachin, right? So now Sachin could have been before Azhar or after Azhar. So then there are two possibilities. One is Sachin, Azhar and Jadeja, or it could have been Azhar, Sachin, Jadeja. Right? Yes or no? Clear? These two orders possible. And these three could have been spread out anywhere in the 11th position. Right? So what I do is, out of these 11 positions, I select 3. Any 3. And in those 3 positions, either I could have this or I could have had this. So into two ways of assigning those 3 positions. Right? How many positions remain? 8 positions remain. And there are 8 other players present. And they have no forms batting anywhere. So those remaining 8 players in 8 positions could be allocated in 8 factorial ways. 8 factorial ways. Right? This is 11C3 into 2 into 8 factorial. Clear? M is a natural number. N is another natural number. Such that the number of proper divisors of n is p minus 2, where p is odd. By the way, I think I have discussed this, but to be on the safer side, tell me if I have. If there is a number n which is like a p1 to power alpha 1 into p2 to power alpha 2 expressed as product of powers of primes pk to power alpha k, then the total number of factors or divisors of n, have I told you, is alpha 1 plus 1 into alpha 2 plus 1 into alpha k plus 1 are the total number of divisors of n, which includes 1 and n. Which includes 1 and n. These are the total number of divisors of n. If from this I remove 2, the 2 divisors, 1 and n, if I remove 2, 1 and n, these 2 numbers if I remove, then I get the number of proper divisors of n. This is the total number of divisors including 1 and n. But if I have to remove 1 and n, that means I remove 2 numbers, 2 factors. So then this will give me the number of proper divisors of n. This will give me the number of proper divisors of n. Clear? Okay. So let's say I have a number small n, which is p1 to power alpha 1, p2 to power alpha 2, pk to power alpha k. Then this will give me the number of proper divisors of n. This will give me the number of proper divisors of n, which is given to be p minus 2, which is given to be p minus 2, where p is odd, p is odd, right? Which means alpha 1 plus 1 into alpha 2 plus 1 into alpha k plus 1 is p, which is odd. Right? Now I have this into this into this into this. Product of these integers as an odd integer, which means none of these can be an even integer. Alpha 1 plus 1 must be odd. Alpha 2 plus 1 must be odd. Alpha k plus 1 must be odd. Because even if 1 is even, the product would have been even. Yes or no? Are you there with me? Right? That means any alpha j plus 1 is odd. Had it not been the case, the product would have been even. Clear? So any of these alpha j plus 1 is an odd number. That means if alpha j plus 1 is odd, alpha j has to be even. Precisely, alpha j has to be even. Clear? So all these alpha j's are even. All these alpha j's are even. Here, which means alpha 1 must be like some 2 times beta 1. Alpha 2 must be like 2 times an integer beta 2. Alpha k must be some 2 times an integer beta k. Clear? I lost. So then small n is p1 to power beta 1 into p2 to power beta 2 into p3 to power, p1 to power 2 beta 1, p2 to power 2 beta 2, p3 to power 2 beta 3, pk to power 2 beta k. So n could have been written as p1 to power 2 beta 1, p2 to power 2 beta 2, pk to power 2 beta k. That's n, right? Which you realize is like p1 to power beta 1 into p2 to power beta 2, right, into pk to power beta k whole squared. No? Prachi, are you lost? Where? Tell me exactly. This from here to here, n is p1 to power alpha 1, p2 to power alpha 2. But I have already established that alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k are even numbers. So alpha 1 I have written as 2 times beta 1. Alpha 2 I have written as 2 times beta 2. Alpha 3 as 2 times beta 3. Alpha k as 2 times beta k. Right? And this, is it not this whole square? X to power m whole to power n is x power mn. Right? Laws of indices. So which means n is a perfect square. N is the square of an integer. N is the square of an integer. Right? Now, what are we seeking? We want to find all n comma m such that n minus m squared is 4. Such that n minus m squared is 4. Right? What we have arrived at is the following. N is a perfect square. That means n can be written as lambda squared where lambda is an integer. Since n is a perfect square, n could be written as lambda squared where lambda is an integer, right? And we want to solve for n and m such that n minus m squared is 4. Such that n minus m squared is 4 where n and m are natural numbers. N and m are natural numbers. Now I replace this n by lambda square. N by lambda squared, right? So lambda squared minus m squared is 4. If I solve for lambda, I know n. And once I know n, I know m. Clear? Lambda and m are both integers. So lambda minus m into lambda plus m is 4. Right? If lambda and m are integers, lambda minus m would be an integer. And lambda plus m would also be an integer. Product of two integers is 4. Product of two integers is 4. What are the various possibilities? One possibility is lambda plus m is 2 and lambda minus m is 2. This is one possibility, right? But when I solve for this gives me m equal to 0. Hey, but n is 0 is not possible. Why? Because n is a natural number. It's given in the problem. So this case is ruled out. This case is ruled out. What's the other possibility? Let's say lambda plus m is minus 2. Is that possible? No. No. Why? Both of them are natural numbers. So lambda plus m is not minus 2. Lambda minus m equal to minus 2. Both equal to minus 2 anyways is ruled out. Now one of them is 4, the other one is 1. One of them is 4, the other one is 1. So let's say lambda plus m is 4. Lambda minus m is 1. Right? So that gives me again lambda equal to 5 by 2. Not possible. So we've exhausted all possibilities. This equal to 1 and this equal to 4 is also not possible. Same thing. Right? So it means what? How many solutions it is? We can't find a value of lambda. So we can't find a value of n. So there are no solutions in natural numbers n and m. Right? Some of the best problems in mathematics will be those that have no solutions. So we are looking at 3-digit numbers of the form x, y, z. 3-digit numbers of the form xyz such that x is less than y and z is also less than y and z is also less than y. X less than y and y greater than z. X less than y and y greater than. Now say y is n, y is some n. Now y is greater than x. So for sure n can't be equal to 1, it has to be greater than 1, it has to be at least 2, n has to be at least 2, yes or no? N has to be at least 2 and obviously it can't be greater than 9, it can't be greater than 9, right? So n in general it can take values like 2 to 9, yes or no? This n can take values like 2 to 9, n is greater than or equal to 2, less than or equal to 9. N assumes values 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up to 9. These are the 8 values that n can assume. Yeah, why not? See, after all, these xyz's, the values that they would assume are like 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. These are the permissible digits, right? Let's say one case, let me fix y equal to some n. This n, I claim, has to be at least 2. Why at least 2? Because if it's equal to 1, then you can't have x less than y, because x can't be 0. X can't be 0, right? We want 3-digit numbers, so x can't be 0. So n has to be at least 2, so that there is a possibility of making x less than y. If n is 1, then of course x, the only possibility is 0, but x can't be, right? So n, obviously it can't go more than 9. It can't go more than 9. So n can vary from 2 to 9. So let's say a certain n, this n could be anywhere from 2 to 9. All these cases would have to be looked at. N equal to 2, n equal to 3, n equal to 4, n equal to 9. For a given n in general, then the values that x would assume, x is less than y. So x will assume values like 1, 2, 3 up to n minus 1. So how many values for a given number n here, for a given number, fix a certain number n here, the number of ways in which x could have been selected, ways x could have been selected is n minus 1, right? And this z is less than y, z is less than y. That means z is less than n. So the values that z could be assigned is 0 to n minus 1, 0 to n minus 1. So n value, z could have been 0. So the number of ways z could have been assigned 0 to n minus 1, that is n ways. There are n assignments possible for z, 0 to n minus 1, 0 to n minus 1, right? So n ways in which z could have been selected. For a given number n selected here, the number of ways we could select x is n minus 1, number of ways we could select z is n. So for a number fixed here, for a number n fixed here, the number of ways in which x and z could have been selected, number of ways in which x and z could have been selected is n minus 1 into n. For a certain number n fixed at this location, the number of ways in which x and z could have been selected is n minus 1 into n. That means for a given n fixed here, the number of 3-digit numbers in compliance with this condition would have been n minus 1 into n, would have been the number of 3-digit numbers in accordance with the given condition, right? N minus 1 into n. But then we will have to calculate this product for n equal to 2, for n equal to 3, for n equal to 4, up to n equal to 9. So what we do is we do a summation of this for n equal to 2 to n equal to 9. Yes or no? And I could have actually done the following also. Even if I said this is the same as summation n minus 1 into n from n equal to 1 to 9, it's the same. Why? Because at n equal to 1, anyways it's 0, right? So n equal to 1 it's 0, and then n equal to 2 onwards I get this. So n equal to 1 to 9 in this case is the same as n equal to 2 to 9. How about it? Are you lost? So then this is like summation n squared minus summation n equal to 1 to 9, n equal to 1 to 9. This is the sum of the squares of the first 9 natural numbers. This is the sum of the first 9 natural numbers. Sum of the squares, you know, up to n terms is n into n plus 1 into 2n plus 1 by 6. So this you can find 9 into 9 plus 1 into 2 into 9 plus 1 by 6. And this would be 9 into 9 plus 1 by 2. N into n plus 1 by 2. Sum of the first 9 natural numbers. You know this result, right? 5. Make a sum of 5. 3 persons, P1, P2, P3. Let's say when this guy throws a dice, he ends up getting a number x1. x1 is like less than or equal to 6. x1 is less than or equal to 6. 1 to 6. x1 can take values like 1 to 6. Produces x3. Alright. So these xi's will lie between 1 and 6, and they must add up to 15. Right? Now, what we are seeking is number of solutions to this equation given that the xi's are less than or equal to 6, right? What I do is, I write a transformation and xi as 7 minus yi. I create this transformation. Then do you realize that yi would have to be greater than or equal to 1? If xi is 7 minus yi would have to be greater than or equal to 1. For every yi found, there is a unique xi commensurate with this condition. I create this transformation so that now my yi are greater than or equal to 1. So I am seeking natural number solutions so that I can seek solutions in yi that are natural numbers, right? So then 7 minus y1, 7 minus y2 and 7 minus y3. So that makes it 21 minus y1 plus y2 plus y3 equal to 15, where the yi's are now natural numbers. Yi's are now natural numbers. We know the solution to this equation when they are natural numbers, right? Yi is now greater than or equal to 1. Yi's are now greater than or equal to 1. So I get y1 plus y2 plus y3 as 6. So what's the number of natural number solutions to this? N minus 1, C R minus 1. Number of natural number solutions to this would be N minus 1, N is 6, C R minus 1, R is 3, right? So 6 minus 1, C R minus 1. That's the number of yi's that could be obtained. And for each y1, y2, y3 a solution, x1, x2, x3 could have been obtained for 7 minus yi. So 5, C2, 10 days. I've discussed 13 in the class, haven't I? Huh? We will assume that it's going to move by 1 unit every time in any direction. It's not going to move more than 1 unit at a time, and it's going to move only in one direction, positive x, positive y, positive z direction. I thought I discussed this as an illustration in the class, right? Can I skip this?